Hi everyone, Garth here from Tiny House, South Africa. This is the third time I'm trying to make this podcast video iteration. I've tried it effectively with the phone, and I've tried it with this camera, but just I wasn't very happy with the image, and so I'm doing this for the third time because I'm really trying to get a nice visually stimulating image and also get nice and clear audio. If you're new to the podcast, then basically my name's Garth and I live in a tiny house. I've been living in South Africa in a tiny house that I built myself for the last 5 years. I'm also quite a keen YouTuber, just using film as a medium of creative expression, and I'm always kind of growing in this medium, and it is sometimes extra little bit of income. I've been creating some content about tiny house living, about self-reliant living, about sustainable living, micro homesteading. And, I'm by no means an expert. I'm just living and learning and sharing. It's currently it's this time of lockdown. So I think most people in South Africa, if you're not an essential worker, are in lockdown with all of us. And personally, our lockdown has been not much of a change for us. It actually has been quite a relief. It's been lovely to be at home. I can't have excuses to be distracted. I've been doing a lot of work in the garden. I've been building little projects. I've been doing lots of little filming projects. It's been super creative and very happy to be at home. And I feel sorry for people that are kind of stuck in highly dense urban areas or in locations and can't actually roam around, and that would be the death of me. I'm very much, the reason I live this life is so that I can be free and outside a lot. Today's episode is basically just going to be talking a little bit about, I get a lot of emails, and obviously I'm trying to create some content with regards to answering some of those questions. And just perhaps giving some ideas. So if you actually do stick around to the end of this video, if you haven't already and you're watching this in a video format, please do like and subscribe to my channel. And you can find me pretty much on Tiny House South Africa, on Instagram, on YouTube, or podcast platforms, even Facebook. So today what I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about is I've been asked this question quite a lot recently, and like everyone's like, hey G, sorry, people just call me G for short. Garth is my name, but I'm very happy with G. People are like, so where do I find land, and can I put my land, and what are the regulations? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm kind of living currently in a big grey area as per the legalities. My house is on a trailer, and it's a movable object. If I have to move it, I will move it. Everything I've created around it has been not really fixed, so if I have to, I will have to break down anything and move it, and but at least I won't lose that resource. I live in such a far removed rural area that I don't really see it being too much of a problem without someone creating a big fuss and kicking a hornet's nest, so I can't tell you what the legalities are. If you're going to buy a little plot and go stick your tiny house, what the neighbors are going to say, etc., etc. People are like, but how did you find your land? So, I found my land, and so what I'm going to do is actually at the end of this podcast, I'm going to really just maybe give 3 points. So if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give 3 things that you could possibly do. But first I'll just tell you where I'm at, so you kind of get an idea and know that I'm pioneering in my own way. And I encourage you to pioneer in your own way, because effectively this is uncharted territory in this medium. Half of our country lives in substandard small houses. So it's really like I'm by no means a pioneer, but I'm a pioneer in the sense that I've built this little tiny house. It is on wheels and it is completely off grid. And I'm learning how to live in this small system. and I'm 5 years down the line, so I have a lot of input about it. So, sorry, where was my chain of thought? So my chain of thought was, where do we find land? I have been a traveler for many, many years, have had many different experiences of living in kind of sub-communities and wanting to even create communities. I was part of a group called Sacred Earth, and that was an initiative to help find land and kind of co-create communities. Creating communities in South Africa is quite a difficult thing because, we have very little social systems, social safety nets. And the problem is where there tends to be lots of land, the land tends to be cheap and removed from any form of economics. Whereas the closer you are to urbanized or popular areas, the land is almost too costly. And so it's not a viable way to move forward, because if the land costs too much, then what's the point of moving where you are? Unless of getting out of an urban area is what you truly, really want. So really I have relationships with the people that I know. Most of the people that I know are kind of like myself. And so finding a place to park my little house and pay a lease was kind of easy for me. How could that be for you? I would just say, I'm going to give some tips at the end, but you have to start networking, researching, and if you can't find what you're looking for, you need to start creating it for yourself. Okay, so that's kind of how I got to land where I am. South Africa is a huge country, and land is big pieces of land are exceptionally hard to manage and are very resource hungry. So, anyone who rocks up to create some form of a network with people of like mind, or perhaps people that are open to maybe letting out small pieces of land for homesteading or this kind of a experiential sustainable living project, I think there is a huge opportunity for that. But the thing is, rules are really important, and it's not only for the landowner or community creator to have a very clear constitution as to what they want to do. It's for the homesteader or someone to rock up with a very clear plan of how they are going to operate. How am I going to deal with my power, my water, how to get to my place, all of these kind of things. You need to really, really think it out. And I think that's where it becomes kind of like a little bit of gray area, because a lot of people are like, oh, Instagram, tiny house, beautiful, sustainable living, micro living, minimalistic living. Awesome. All these things are awesome. I'm not trying to ditch any of them, but it may not be for everyone. The picture is not the experience. And I personally am here just preaching the same thing over and over, and I'm very grateful for anyone who will listen to me talking about this stuff. I'm just trying to save people money, resource, and assist you in trying to make changes that are sustainable so that you can actually continue with your vision, And what tends to happen is people just want to make... Sorry, that's Ollie over here. He's just chilling on the couch next to me. A lot of people are trying to create these life changes, and they're trying to do it too swiftly, like too much of a radical change. And they think, well, radical change is going to be what sustains me, and my life's going to be so much better. But I've observed too many times that radical change is not sustainable for 90%. Okay, so just come in quick, babe, and then I'll cut it at that point. Okay, pause. We're just pausing here. Okay, please put it out. I just need 10 minutes, that's all. Okay, sorry, huge interruption there. Dog's very excited, Mama Bear's back. Okay, so just trying to encourage people to really think about what it is they're wanting to do. And so try and get experiences of what it is. So if I really want to build a tiny house, then you should really go make a plan to go out to wherever there's a tiny house or a container home and go spend a weekend in it and get a vibe for it. If you're going to build one, you got to think about the nuts and bolts. Where are my tools? Where am I going to build it? Have I got any experience? You don't need experience. I mean, I built this house. I'm by no means a carpenter, and it's not rocket science, but it is possible, but it takes time. Patience will be your greatest asset, and it'll also save you a lot of money. So the whole idea is, if you have to start buying into properties and paying levies and everything, then you might as well consider going to live in a small eco village and build yourself a more permanent house, So really just do the research and find out what's viable. I know there is a very small percentage of people that want to build these houses and try drive them around the country. For me, that's not really where I'm coming from. I don't see it as sustainable. I would do it on a much smaller scale and a much more mobile scale, and be much more efficient in the travel and experience. But that's just me. Not to say that you shouldn't do that at all. How can you get an experience of what it means to actually live on pieces of land and with communities? There's things that you can look into, like Workaway or woofing, where you can actually go and volunteer on certain kinds of communities, and that would not only be beneficial for you to experience what it means to live a bit out of urban areas, but it'll also allow you to start networking and creating relationships with people that might have similar vision to you. And then just big things like learning to change exactly where you are, learning to try and sort through the turmoil inside now where you are, so that when you come out to where it's very quiet and all that upwelling will come, you've already done some of the work. Just to be realistic, I've watched many friends come and go in the environment where I live, and people spend a lot of money and resource and end up going right back to where they came from. Because they didn't realize that it's an adaptation. It's like a period of time taken to slow down and to attune oneself to the environment, and that there's no quick fix for that. It takes time. So this is the third iteration of this podcast. I'm going to probably upload the video, also put it on my podcast platform. I use Anchor, and usually it broadcasts out from there. I've got I'm practicing getting some friends to have video conferencing calls with me, and I'm going to record them and really try and get that content out. Different things about seed banks and how to garden and how to cut trees and how to be aware of your environment and why I walk around barefoot, and just my whole community of people I'd love so much, because they're such wonderful people and help me to get where I am. I'd love to be able to share their information, hopefully create a positive feedback loop that will allow us all to be abundant and safe and nourished and healthy and, free. So thank you for listening. Once again, stay safe. I know that if you're in South Africa, we're halfway through the lockdown, and then we'll see what comes next. Please feel free to keep the questions coming and stuff. I have got some video what I'm offering at the moment is a 100 Rand donation, and I do like a video call with you, a one-on-one, and we have a chat about where it is and what you're thinking about, and if there's any insight I can give, I'd gladly do it. And until then, thank you, and just keep the dream alive and do your homework, and what a wonderful world we live in. It's so abundant. Bye.